I pulled in my driveway after a long weekend camping in the mountains, my body aching for a dip in my backyard pool. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over my quiet neighborhood, and I could almost feel the cool water washing away the dust of the trails. But as I swung open the gate to my backyard, my stomach plummeted. My pull-me pride and joy was bone dry. Nothing but slick concrete and a few pathetic puddles where sparkling rainwater should have been. Muddy footprints crisscrossed my deck, and the drainage valve was busted wide open, clearly forced. Taped to the gate was a neon green note, the handwriting sharp and accusing. Water waste VUI, Olation HOA enforced. Your selfish indulgence stops now. My blood boiled. I knew exactly who did this. Marissa Thompson, our neighborhood's self-crowned HOA queen, had been gunning for my pool since the day it was built. She thrived on control, strutting around our cookie-cutter suburb like she owned every lawn and mailbox. Marissa was the type to slap fines on kids' lemonade stands for unpermitted commerce, or measure your hedges with a ruler to ensure they didn't exceed regulation height. But my pool, that was her personal vendetta. It wasn't just any pool, though. I'd poured 2 years and a small fortune into designing a fully sustainable rainwater system. Every drop came from my roof, funneled through gutters into tanks, filtered, and pumped into the pool. I had permits, city approvals, even an environmental certificate framed in my office. This wasn't just a pull, it was a statement. I was proud to be the guy who didn't just talk about going green, but actually did it. Marissa, though, saw it as a middle finger to her authority. For months, she'd been harassing me, claiming my pool was leaching city resources and mocking drought regulations. I'd explained the rainwater system a dozen times, showed her the flow meters, the filtration logs, even invited her to see the setup. She'd just scoff, mutter about fancy excuses, and storm off. Her obsession grew darker by the week. She started quoting fake HOA rules about water misuse that weren't in any bylaws. Then she got bold, snapping photos of my pool from her second-story window and blasting them on the neighborhood Facebook group, branding me a water hog and urging everyone to report me to the city. Last week, she'd warned me she'd take action if I didn't fix this eyesore. I thought she meant more fines. I never imagined she'd go this far. While I was away, Marissa had crossed a line no one saw coming. Without permission, without a shred of legal authority, she hired a pool contractor, fed him a story about emergency HOA compliance, and had him drain every gallon from my pool. The guy thought she was legit, said she waved some official-looking letterhead, and claimed full board and city backing. When I found out, I was shaking with rage, but I kept it together. I grabbed my folder of permits, thick as a novel, and marched to Marissa's house. A crowd of neighbors was already milling around, sensing a storm brewing. Marissa opened her door with a smirk that made my skin crawl. "Well, look who's back," she cooed, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Come to thank me for SAVYing the planet." I held my temper barely. "Marissa, you had no right to touch my pool. For the 100th time, it's filled with rainwater I collect and filter myself. I've got every permit right here." I thrust the folder forward, but she waved it away like it was junk mail. "Oh, please," she laughed, her eyes glinting with contempt. "Nobody buys that eco-nonsense. You can't fill a pool with rainwater. You're just dodging responsibility for your waste." I clenched my jaw. "Marissa, I've got VYDO proof, flow records, certifications. This is a legal green system." She didn't even blink. "I don't care about your little papers. That pool was a blight, and now it's gone. You're welcome." That's when I snapped. Not with yelling or threats, I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. Marissa's smirk faltered, just for a second, but it was enough to know I'd finally rattled her. When Officer Daniels arrived, the tide turned fast. I walked him through the rainwater system, showed him the permits, the certifications, the works. Marissa kept butting in, insisting she had full HOA authority to enforce conservation. Daniels wasn't VYing it. He called the contractor, who spilled everything. Marissa had lied, said it was a city order, and he'd only done the job because he trusted her. When Daniels told him he'd been tricked into vandalism, The guy practically begged to make it right. Daniels turned to Marissa, his voice hard. "Ma'am, you had no right to enter this man's property or touch his pool. You lied to a contractor and damaged a certified green system. That's trespassing, vandalism, and fraud, for starters." Marissa's face went crimson, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. Then the neighbors started talking. Mrs. Lee from down the street said Marissa had ripped out her herb garden for aesthetic violations. Old man Carter said she'd had his motorcycle towed because it looked too loud. Story after story poured out, years of pent-up frustration spilling into the open. Marissa's reign of terror was crumbling, and she knew it. Within an hour, she was in handcuffs, screeching about her rights as HOA president while being stuffed into a squad car. The neighborhood buzzed for days. At an emergency HOA meeting, packed to the rafters, Marissa was voted out unanimously. Her own cronies abandoned her. The board didn't just apologize. They promised to cover every penny to restore my pool and fix the busted valve. Word spread, and the local news pounced. HOA tyrant drains eco pool, gets arrested, hit the airwaves, and Marissa's mugshot went VY memed into Obly VY on as the face of entitled neighbors everywhere. But Marissa's reckoning wasn't over. The city's environmental office investigated and slapped her with a due law $15,000 fine for sabotaging a certified green system, plus another due law $10,000 for lying to the contractor. 3 months later, in court, the judge didn't hold back. Marissa got 6 months in jail, 2 years probation, and a due law $25,000 restitution order. When the gavel fell, she staggered, clutching the table, whispering, "This can't be real." Oh, it was real, all right. The HOA rewrote its rules to protect green tech, and I started speaking at local events about sustainable water systems. My pool? It's back, better than ever, filled with pure rainwater that glitters like justice. Every swim feels like a middle finger to Marissa's meltdown. Floating there, watching storm clouds roll in for another free refill, I can't help but grin at how her obsession blew up in her face. So what do you think? Was Marissa just a control freak who got what she deserved? Or did she have a point about water conservation, even if she went way too far? Should HOAs have the power to mess with your property like that? Or is this a case of personal freedom getting trampled? And let's get real, would you have called the cops? Or handled it another way? Drop your thoughts below, smash that like button if you're team rainwater, and subscribe for more wild neighbor sagas. Let's keep this debate raging. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story on Store of Good Stories. If this story touched your heart or made you think, don't forget to hit like and share the video to spread this positive message to more people. And if this is your first time here, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of the meaningful stories we share every week. Your support is the biggest motivation for Store of Good Stories to keep bringing heartfelt and valuable stories to you. See you in the next video.